we don't have a written constitution at the moment, do we?
No, we don't have a written constitution, and we're one of only 3 countries in the world that don't, alongside New Zealand and Israel. So what that does mean is that in principle, it's relatively easy to change the constitution, because ultimately all you need is to pass an act of parliament. And so what that does mean is that, all these potential constitutional reforms are in play. They are, in principle, achievable. You don't have to go through any process in order to deliver them.
Yeah, they're saying it's a blueprint for a new Britain, but actually sort of digging down in the detail, a lot of it just seems to be devolution, but to a further degree.
Yes, this is in some ways, it's become the Cinderella of British politics, that all political parties for the past 10, 15 years have promised devolution to, yes, Wales and Scotland, but also to the regions or to local authorities. We've seen combined authorities in some parts of England. We've seen elected mayors in other parts of England. And what this has done has made sort of local government more complex. So maybe there is value in thinking, let's start again and think about how we really want local areas in England in particular to be governed. Yeah, but it is a complex.
Could it be that the fact that we've got Labour mayors from Manchester, Andy Burnham, for London, Sadiq Khan, that maybe Labour sees some political advantage in doing this?
Well, inevitably, politicians are always the midwives of constitutional change. And yes, there's always a sense that, they're going to introduce political changes, constitutional changes that benefit them. Another perennial is always proportional representation.
Yeah.
Some parties campaign and say, we'll do it. But once they get into government, all of a sudden they lose interest because they're quite in favour of the system that got them into power in the first place. So there's always political considerations here. Yeah.
And talking of perennial issues, the House of Lords, here we go again, some people may be thinking. Why is it that Labour seems so besotted with the sort of position of the second chamber?
Well, I always think of House of Lords reform as the Bermuda Triangle of British politics, in that there's always proposals, but they never seem to go anywhere. Now, as regards Labour's interest, they've always had an interest in reforming the House of Lords. In principle, it goes back historically in that once upon a time, it was full of the aristocracy, and Labour was formed out of a very different constituency. So they never had much representation. Now, as time, of course, that's changed, but there are potentially some problems with the House of Lords today. The general view is that it might be a bit too big. Some appointments might be questionable over the past few years. Prime ministers essentially have a free hand in who they appoint. And, there's a general sense that maybe it's time to look at this and put this on a better footing. Whether that means abolishing it completely, I'm less sure about. Maybe there are some incremental changes we could do along the way.